The next day, Lu Chuang bought a batch of guns and tools from Weasel. He began to modify the firearms himself. Sure enough, when he started to modify the firearms, the super high school level sharpshooter's talent was activated again, and a sense of familiarity like instinct emerged spontaneously. Without thinking, he could clearly distinguish the functions of firearm accessories, and at the same time, various values appeared in his head. With the assistance of a super high school level sharpshooter, Lu Chuang quickly transformed the first pistol. The power of this modified pistol is more than double that of ordinary pistols, but the recoil does not increase. Unlike Frank's modified Browning automatic pistol, although it is powerful, its recoil is also amazing. If it weren't for Frank's physical fitness far beyond ordinary people, he wouldn't be able to play with that modified pistol at all. Putting it outside, Lu Chuang's modified pistol is definitely a black technology product. However, Lu Chuang did not keep the pistol, but disassembled it and rebuilt it in another direction. With the increase in the number of transformations, Lu Chuang continued to tap the potential of a super high school level sharpshooter. His experience can be seen with the naked eye. The speed is improving rapidly, and the instinct for firearms has gradually turned into substantial experience. In just a few days, Lu Chuang has become an experienced firearms expert. Lu Chuang also has a new understanding of super high school level talents. Super high school level talent is by no means the kind of ability that is forced into the brain. It is more like an ability and instinct. Only through a lot of practice can these theories and skills be fully integrated, and there are huge amounts of potential waiting for Lu Chuang to tap. 5 days later, Lu Chuang came to an open field in the suburbs. Have to admit, America has an advantage. That is, there is no shortage of land at all, and there are enough open spaces. It is not easy to find a place without people. Lu Chuang looked around the empty field of vision, and after confirming that there was no one within 100 meters, he suddenly lowered his hands, and the two pistols were quickly sent to his hands with the propelling device built into his clothes. At the same time, Lu Chuang's pupils shrank suddenly. The body is constantly secreting adrenaline, and the brain is running rapidly to calculate, centering on its own body, using the prototype geometry as the plane reference, constructing a statistical model in his mind, and the trajectory angles and distances of all attack points are all in front of his eyes. Suddenly, Lu Chuang held guns with both hands and pointed to the left and right sides, and the muzzles of the guns erupted with flames. Bang 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 bang. The muffled gunshots sounded continuously, and it didn't sound like a pistol at all, but more like two submachine guns. With the sound of the gunshot, Lu Chuang kept turning his body in the rhythm of the shooting sound, and quickly swung his arms. This time it was not an arc trajectory, but a more direct attack method. If arc trajectory and bullet interception are weird and changeable skills, but the current attack method is extremely fast. Although the speed is fast, it is not messy, and Lu Chuang's movements are full of flowing beauty. When the last bullet was fired from the gun, Lu Chuang flipped his wrist, and the magazine fell according to gravity. The thruster device instantly ejected a new magazine and inserted it into the pistol. The bullet was ejected from the muzzle again, and the gunshot could not hear a single pause. A feeling of. After more than 10 seconds, Lu Chuang's pupils returned to normal file size, and he exited the bullet time. Panting slightly, he murmured, "Super high school level sharpshooter, it's really terrifying." This is the second time Lu Chuang has entered bullet time. In bullet time, Lu Chuang can perform complex calculations and analyses in a short period of time. Each bullet is shot through precise calculations, and the hit rate is infinitely close to 100%. Lu Chuang can easily shoot with just one bullet. Take away the life of the enemy, there is no need to fire a second shot. With the two pistols he personally modified, the power didn't increase much, but the shooting frequency was comparable to the speed of a submachine gun, and the lethality of the two pistols was at least twice as high. You know, people die when they are killed. Abandoning the enhancement of power, the threat to the enemy is even greater. Gunfighting technique plus firearm modification. This is the real way to open the super high school level sharpshooter. After finishing the test, Lu Chuang put the pistol back in his sleeve and walked home. Passing by a deserted construction site, Lu Chuang accidentally saw two figures, one big and one small, standing inside. They looked like father and daughter, with a distance between them. Before Lu Chuang could take a closer look, He saw the man who seemed to be his father suddenly raised a pistol and pointed it at the little lowly. What the hell? Lu Chuang's pupils shrank suddenly, and the flow of time instantly slowed down. The pistol slipped from the sleeve, and then the arm swung suddenly, and a bullet arced in the air and shot between the two of them. Boom. In midair, 2 bullets collided and fell to the ground with a crisp sound. In the perspective of the father and daughter, the father shot at the little Lolita, and the little Lolita closed her eyes subconsciously. There was only a crisp sound, but the imagined pain did not appear. Little Lolita slowly opened her eyes, only to see her father standing there with a dull expression on his face. She wondered, "Big Daddy, what's the matter?" Her father didn't answer her, but stared at the 2 bullets on the ground dumbfounded. "I saw 2 bullets merged into one at a 90-degree right angle, and 1 bullet pierced the other bullet horizontally. It looked like someone shot from the side, just hitting the bullet that was traveling in a straight line in midair. But the problem is that their left and right sides are covered with obstructions. Where did they come from? In broad daylight, a big man actually bullies a little girl?" A voice suddenly came from behind. Big Daddy immediately turned around and saw Lu Chuang pointing a gun at his head. He fired that gun. Big Daddy was shocked in his heart. Although he couldn't believe it, the facts were right in front of his eyes. Someone really shot and intercepted his bullet, and the other person was actually standing behind him. How did this guy do it? Big Daddy. Seeing Daddy being pointed at the head, little Loli hurried over. Facing Lu Chuang with a gun, this little Loli, who looked only about 11 years old, showed no fear on her face, but a ferocity and fearlessness that did not match her age. She seemed to regard Lu Chuang as an enemy. The body assumes a combat-ready posture. "Mindy, stand behind me." Big Daddy stopped her movement, stretched out his hand to protect her behind him, and then used his body to block the muzzle of the gun. He stared at Lu Chuang intently. "Who are you and what do you want?" Seeing this scene, Lu Chuang frowned. "How can you feel that you have become a bad person for no reason when you are so brave?" Lu Chuang looked at Big Daddy and Mindy, and suddenly noticed that the little loli named Mindy was wearing a small body armor, as if he had known in advance to shoot and took defensive measures. "Are you really father and daughter?" Big Daddy nodded with an ugly face, holding the pistol tightly in his right hand but didn't dare to lift it up. This person gave him an extremely dangerous feeling, as if the muzzle of the gun was locked on his head. No matter how he tried to avoid it, he couldn't escape. The most important thing is that Mindy is right behind him. Big Daddy can't gamble with Mindy's safety. "Well, it looks like a misunderstanding." Under the watchful eyes of the two, Lu Chuang put down his pistol. "I saw you shooting at this girl. I thought it was some kind of perverted killer, and you look quite similar." There was no threat of gunpoint, and Big Daddy finally breathed a sigh of relief. But when he heard the last sentence, his eyelids couldn't help twitching a few times. Why did he start to attack personally? Lu Chuang asked curiously, "So what are you doing?" "We're training." Before the Big Daddy opened his mouth, little Lori Mindy replied in a childish voice, looking at Lu Chuang with glowing eyes. "How did you do it just now, intercepting bullets with bullets? Oh my god. This is so cool. You won't be the kind of superhero in the comics, will you?" Lu Chuang cheerfully said, "I want to learn, I'll teach you." "Yeah. Ahem." Big Daddy coughed and interrupted their conversation. He grabbed Mindy's little hand and said to Lu Chuang, "Sorry, we still have things to do, my daughter and I won't bother you." Ignoring Mindy's 2 or 3 steps to turn around, Big Daddy led her away from the scene quickly. Lu Chuang didn't stop them because he had already guessed the identities of these 2 people. Killer Girl and Big Daddy in Kick-Ass. An anti-hero like the Punisher is also a ruthless person who never stays behind the villain. Don't look at the cute little Lolita, but it's bloody and violent when she starts her hands, and it's all because of her father's childhood. It is comparable to the iron-blooded training of Sparta. After the 2 left, Lu Chuang put away the pistol, hummed a little song and walked home. In the next few days, Lu Chuang made some new things. Although the 2 pistols have been used very smoothly, Lu Chuang feels that they are still far from enough. After all, the world he lives in is the Marvel world full of disasters, and ordinary pistols may not be able to kill some enemies. Originally, Lu Chuang planned to try to transform a sniper rifle, or even a bazooka full of human truths. As a result, He found that the prices of those gadgets were very expensive, and it was simply not something he, a poor man, could afford. Ever since, Lu Chuang changed his thinking. Since you can't afford to play with firearms, then don't modify them. You know, the way to improve firepower is not just to modify firearms. Non-lethal weapons such as bullets, grenades, or flashbangs can enhance his combat effectiveness. Lu Chuang may not have enough money for high-level firearms and weapons, but he can still afford ammunition and the like. Then Lu Chuang tried to modify it, and it turned out to be a success. Lu Chuang was instantly excited when he discovered this. Think about Hawkeye from Avengers. He is also proficient in archery. Why can he become a member of Avengers? Is it because he is messy enough? Well, it is true that this possibility cannot be ruled out. But it is undeniable that Hawkeye's arrows with various effects, combined with his super archery, are also very powerful. Doesn't it mean that Loki, the King of Kings, was completely reduced after receiving one of his arrows? Is it a funny character? Thinking of this, Lu Chuang was suddenly inspired, and started to modify the ammunition. It is the most common idea to increase the power of the grenade. As far as Lu Chuang knew, there were quite a few people who could withstand the damage of the grenade, and the most they could do to increase the power was just to help the other party scrape the patient's body. Therefore, Lu Chuang's transformation plan has only one goal. Even if you can't hurt the opponent, you have to consume the opponent's combat power. For example, put a lot of chili water into the smoke bomb, transform the flash bomb into colorful strong light. Although these things may hurt him by mistake, but Lu Chuang has self-healing ability, it will be a big deal to see who can have the last laugh. Looking at the gunpowder in the room, Lu Chuang shook his head. It still feels like it's not enough, and the money is almost spent. It seems that we have to find a weasel to take over the commission. Lu Chuang went to the open space again to test the power of the newly made ammunition. And the final result made him very satisfied. Passing through the abandoned construction site, the father and daughter still didn't show up. Anyway, Lu Chuang didn't think it was because of himself. After all, he looked so kind. In other words, why'd I always meet anti-heroes? Be it Wade, Frank, Mindy or Big Daddy, none of them are good. Lu Chuang has a feeling that a little sheep has fallen into the pack of wolves. If this continues, it will be difficult to guarantee that his kind little cat will not be affected by these good people. Back in Brooklyn, Lu Chuang happened to pass by a restaurant and walked in without having dinner. During this period of time, he was busy with various things, so he ate all kinds of fast food. To be honest, the fast food in America is really cheap. Not only is the portion large but also the price is cheap. This is also the reason why some poor people are keen to eat these high-calorie foods. Fast food will lead to the emergence of so many overweight obese people. Although Lu Chuang is not afraid of these high-calorie fast food, but he is about to throw up, and now he has time, he plans to change his taste. Walking into the restaurant, Lu Chuang found that the restaurant was almost full of people. At this time, a waiter came over and asked with a smile, "How many sirs are you?" 1. "Sorry sir, we may not have enough seats." The waiter apologized professionally. "However, if you don't mind, you can share a table with other customers." Yes. Lu Chuang didn't care, it didn't matter where to eat or not. The waiter walked away but came back quickly. "There are 2 guests who have agreed to share the table, sir, please follow me." Lu Chuang followed the waiter into the restaurant and stopped near the corner. Lu Chuang looked at the seat and found that there were 2 young men. One was a fat man with slightly curly hair. The other was a man wearing sunglasses, and beside him was a blind man with a guide stick. Sitting opposite the 2, Lu Chuang suddenly felt a little uncomfortable, but he didn't care. Thinking it was just affected by the environment of the restaurant, he took the menu from the waiter, and ordered 2 main dishes that looked good. "Just hold a glass of water and wait." At this time, the curly-haired fat man said enthusiastically, "It seems that we are not lonely tonight." If someone is willing to compete with him, Lu Chuang will naturally not pretend to be arrogant and slap him in the face. He laughed and said, "There are at least 2 of you, and you can go to the internet cafe to play hackers, so I can only play solo." The curly-haired fat man didn't seem to be able to understand this meaning. He smiled and did not respond, but took out a business card and handed it to Lu Chuang. "My name is Fudge Nelson, and this is my colleague Matt Murdoch. We are lawyers at the Nelson Murdoch law firm. We have been in the industry for a short time and are actively looking for new clients. If you need the help of a lawyer, we are happy to serve you. Fudge introduced with a smile, then looked at his silent companion beside him, and asked in a puzzled tone, "Hey, Matt, why didn't you talk all of a sudden?" Lu Chuang took the business card and looked at it, and couldn't help but look up at the blind man named Matt. Isn't this a coincidence? Just worried that I would be influenced by great benefactors, a superhero suddenly appeared. Some people are blind on the surface, but they are actually superheroes. In the future, they will join a group of heroes. Although they cannot see, they have super sensory abilities and superb fighting skills. Boxing and kicking are the same. Have to. Yes, he is the famous blind monk Li Qing. People from the rivers and lakes gave him the nickname, Daredevil. No wonder Lu Chuang felt a little strange when he just sat down. Judging from Matt's reaction, it is estimated that his keen sense of smell smelled the residual gunpowder smoke on his body, which aroused his vigilance, and he was observing himself with his super-sensory ability. Lu Chuang felt a sudden chill. Although the other party couldn't see anything, how could he stand up to being observed by a big man in all directions? Bullet time. Start. Matt Murdoch, courtesy name Li Qing. This evening, Matt and Fudge came to this restaurant on Fudge's recommendation to celebrate their new law firm. As a result, when they were halfway through eating, the waiter suddenly came over and asked if they could share a table with a customer. As a superhero, Matt is naturally happy to help strangers with this little favor. However, when the other party approached them, Matt smelled a lot of gunpowder smoke remaining on the other party's body with an extraordinary sense of smell, as if he had experienced a gun battle not long ago. Fortunately, there was no smell of blood, and Matt's vigilance could not help but drop a little. Matt could feel that this person's identity was not simple. With a skeptical attitude, he began to observe the stranger in front of him. Definitely, he did not use his eyes to observe, but relied on his super-sensory ability to collect information about the other party. Want to judge the identity of the other party. Through super hearing, Matt can hear the heartbeat of the other party very fast. Matt could tell that it wasn't a frequency of emotional stress, but more of a sign of good health. As Matt continued to listen, though, he felt more and more that something was wrong. This heartbeat seems to be faster. No, it's getting faster and faster. This heartbeat rate is almost 200 times per minute, and the heartbeat is still accelerating. After a while, Matt's eyes widened, and his heart rate exceeded 300 beats per minute. This is a heart problem. Just when Matt was so frightened that he wanted to remind him, he heard his heart rate suddenly slow down again, and then eased. Matt froze. What's going on? Matt is not an expert in medical matters, so he couldn't figure out what was going on with this strange heart rate. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, the heart rate reached 400 per minute. Matt almost stood up. Boom. Boom. In less than half a second, the heart rate suddenly dropped again. Matt's face turned pale slightly, and the heartbeat frequency made his heartbeat dance along with it. Before Matt's heart eased up, the weird heartbeat rate increased again. For the next half minute, Matt listened to the heart rate rise and fall, until it settled into a rough rhythm. Matt clutched his heart, as if listening to an exciting music feast. His expression was dull, and he murmured in disbelief. Symphony of Destiny? At the same time, Lu Chuang was also holding his heart with a pale face. This is the first time he has repeatedly turned on the bullet time so frequently, which makes his heart beat out of the rhythm of the Symphony of Fate. If it were someone else playing like this, they wouldn't need their heart, probably their souls would be singing the Symphony of Fate. However, even Lu Chuang's self-healing ability can't stand it. Lu Chuang, who was not weak in his life, gritted his teeth, smiled complacently, and looked at Matt's gradually distorted face. Let you peek. If I don't scare you out of your psychological shadow, it's my heart not beating fast enough. Fudge was in a daze the whole time. He felt that the wind was a bit cold tonight, and he felt like an outsider. Seeing Lu Chuang and Matt looking at each other, and then covering their hearts at the same time, their faces became more and more strange, as if they were making silent eye contact. Fudge felt that he could not participate in their world at all. But the question is, aren't you blind, Matt? Where's the eye contact? When the Symphony of Destiny was halfway through, Matt finally couldn't help it, restrained his sensory ability, gave up observing Lu Chuang. The beating of this heart is really too penetrating, listening to his heart beating along with it. Matt forced a smile and nodded. Hi, I'm Matt Murdoch. The uncomfortable feeling disappeared, and Lu Chuang also cancelled the bullet time, and said with a smile, Hello, Lawyer Murdoch, I am Lu Chuang. Seeing the two of them clutching their hearts, they introduced themselves with pale faces. If Fudge hadn't witnessed the whole process, he would have thought it was two heart patients communicating about their condition. Feeling that the weird atmosphere gradually became harmonious, Fudge said, Our law firm is on 46th Street in West Midtown. If you need legal advice, you can come to us. West Midtown, also known as Hell's Kitchen. Due to the reputation of Hell's Kitchen, which is famous for its messy and backward living quality, serious ethnic conflicts and high crime rate, local residents usually use the more normal-sounding name of West Midtown, especially Fudge, who runs a law firm. So, I'm afraid the reputation of Hell's Kitchen will scare away customers. Lu Chuang took a sip of water. Speaking of legal advice, I do have a question that has puzzled me for many years. Hearing Lu Chuang's words, Fudge suddenly became interested. Before he could ask, Matt asked first, What's the question? Since the perception ability cannot be used to judge, then use the simplest way to set out the identity of the other party. Lu Chuang said with a serious look, It's like this. If there is a hamburger restaurant that is very popular, and there is a fast food restaurant opposite this hamburger restaurant, but because the business of this hamburger restaurant is too hot, the fast food restaurant has no business, so fast food restaurant owners have been trying to make a fortune stealing hamburger recipes. However, the plan of the fast food restaurant owner did not succeed, because every time he stole the secret recipe of the burger, he would be driven out by the owner of the burger restaurant and the chef in various ways, which caused the fast food restaurant owner to suffer mentally and physically. Damage. Is the burger shop owner and chef breaking the law? Fudge was taken aback for a moment. Why does this story sound familiar? Matt didn't think too much, but thought about it from a lawyer's point of view, and replied, It's not breaking the law. The behavior of the two people in the burger restaurant is justified, and it's a measure taken to protect their legal rights. The behavior of the owner of the fast food restaurant is burglary, and if relevant clues can be provided, the owner of the burger restaurant can sue the owner of the fast food restaurant. Lu Chuang nodded. I see, then I would like to thank you for the owner of the burger shop. I have a question. Is the burger restaurant you mentioned called Yuzhibo, and the owner is called Crab Boss? Fudge looked a little weird, but Matt didn't notice it. His expression changes. Matt asked in a puzzled tone. Fudge, do you know this burger restaurant? How should I put it? Matt, you don't often watch TV. In fact, that burger restaurant is quite famous all over the world. So powerful? Why didn't I know there was this burger shop? Recalling all the burger restaurants he knew, Matt still couldn't find a suitable one. Seeing that Matt still didn't understand, Fudge said helplessly, You may not know this burger restaurant, but there is an employee in it whose name you should have heard of. What is his name? SpongeBob SquarePants. Matt. Silent Lu Chuang clapped his hands and praised. As expected of Mr. Murdoch, he immediately answered this question that has puzzled me since I was a child. What kind of nonsense did you think about when you were a kid? Matt was a little speechless. He felt that this man had an unscrupulous breath in his whole body and heart. In order to thank you for your help, let me treat this meal. Without giving the two of them time to refuse, Lu Chuang beckoned the waiter over. Their table will be charged to my account. Give money. Good sir. Generous Lu, I offer you a toast. Fudge immediately picked up the drink in his hand to express his gratitude. He didn't care what questions the other party asked, and he still liked customers who were generous. After hearing this, Matt had to raise his drink. Thank you for this dinner. Lu Chuang raised his water glass. It's easy to say, I may still have some legal issues to consult in the future, and then I will trouble Lawyer Nelson and Lawyer Murdoch. The so-called going out, many friends and many roads. Being able to be friends with Night Demon Blind Monk Xia, at least the path of jungler must be stable. Hearing Lu Chuang's words, Fudge's attitude became more enthusiastic. He left Matt and chatted with Lu Chuang. From SpongeBob SquarePants, who seemed most interested in the other party, to the safety impact of the Pacific Rim volcanic earthquake zone on America's surrounding environment. Lu Chuang can also answer anything. whether he understands it or not, as long as he can answer it. Listening to the two chatting, Matt couldn't speak at all. I just feel that the wind is a bit cold tonight, and I feel like an outsider. After leaving the restaurant, it was already 10 o'clock in the evening. After Lu Chuang said goodbye to Matt and Fudge, he walked to Sister Margaret's bar. Walking into the dark alley, at a distance of about 20 meters, Lu Chuang suddenly saw two figures coming out from the door of the bar, and then left to the other end of the alley. Why does this back look familiar? Lu Chuang looked at the two leaving figures and walked towards Sister Margaret's bar while pondering. When Lu Chuang walked into the bar, he found that there seemed to be something wrong with the atmosphere in the bar. Different from the harmonious atmosphere of drinking and fighting in the past, the at-the-moment bar was very quiet, only some whispering voices were discussing something. Lu Chuang noticed that some mercenaries were holding pistols in their hands, which was not in line with Margreta's safe behavior rules at the nuns' bar. Lu Chuang didn't bother to think about it, so he went straight to the weasel at the bar. What happened here? You came just in time, we are in big trouble. Seeing Lu Chuang's appearance, Weasel said with a serious expression, to be precise, you and Wade are in serious trouble. The Francis you mentioned earlier brought a female version of the Terminator to the door just now, and wanted to inquire about Wade's situation. Whereabouts? It looks like they already know that Wade is still alive. It turned out to be them. Lu Chuang narrowed his eyes. No wonder the back looks so familiar, it turned out to be the Sema face of Francis, and the other one should be the female mutant named Gina. Weasel said. Thanks to my old buddies, they didn't dare to do anything casually here, but they took away the previous photo of Wade and Vanessa. Behind the bar are all photos of mercenaries. These are the photos of dead mercenaries. In memory of them, Wade, who was suffering from cancer, also left photos. Their target is Vanessa. Lu Chuang said without hesitation. It's not hard to think of using Wade's most important person to lure him out. Weasel nodded in agreement. I thought so too, so I notified Wade, and now he has gone to find Vanessa. I hope everything you still have time. Lu Chuang didn't speak, he was trying to recall the plot of the movie. Weasel, have you heard of the X-Men? X-Men? Weasel didn't understand why Lu Chuang asked this suddenly, but he still thought about it seriously. I seem to have heard this name before. It is said that it is a mutant organization dedicated to peace, and its main activities were from the 1960s to the 1990s. It's long since disappeared. Maybe it's just a myth made up by those mutants. Why are you asking this all of a sudden? Do you still expect the X-Men to help you two fake mutants? The ground squirrel thought that Lu Chuang and Wade were both transformed mutants. Yeah. Lu Chuang's face was full of worry. In fact, he has already discovered that although there are mutants in this world, there is no news about X-Men, as if this organization does not exist in the world. Is it dead or alive? Then the question arises, without the existence of X-Men, the two important supporting roles in the Deadpool movie, Colossus and Warhead in X-Men will not appear. Can Wade find a suitable helper to deal with Francis? After a while, the Weasel suddenly received a call. Seeing the caller ID, Weasel gestured to Lu Chuang for the screen and found that it was Wade calling. When the phone was connected, I heard Wade snarl, F*K. F*K. That bastard took Vanessa. Prepare a weapon for me. I'm going to F*King F*K that bastard right now. Weasel secretly thought it was bad, and hurriedly advised, Wade, calm down. Let's find a place to talk. I'm calm. I'm F*King calm now. Wade's voice was full of anger and mania, and he yelled at the phone. Gather at your house. With the crisp ringing of the bar, the signal on the other end of the phone was disconnected. Weasel's face changed slightly. Damn it. Wade doesn't have the key to my house, so that guy is trying to smash my house, right? Relax. You know Wade, at best, blow up your house. Lu Chuang comforted. Weasel. Let's go. If we don't go, it will be too late. The Weasel hurriedly found someone to look after the bar, and rushed out of the gate with Lu Chuang. Lu Chuang seemed to have thought of something, turned around and ran in another direction. I'll go home to pick up some things. Send your address to my phone, and I'll be there later. Calm down, Wade, you must be calm. In a certain room, the Weasel persuaded Wade earnestly, and the door behind him was broken into several pieces. Get me a weapon. I want it all. Wade smashed the wall with a punch, and the broken phalanx healed quickly. Alright. I see. Weasels don't dare pour oil on Rage's Wade's head, or his house will be gone. While the weasel was collecting weapons, Lu Chuang walked in through the broken door, and saw that he was carrying a huge amounts of traveling bag on his back. Yo, Wade, long time no see. Lu Chuang looked at Wade and said hello. Anxiety was visible to the naked eye on Wade's face, and he said very fast, "Little guy, this is not the time for a party. Francis's damn dish soap took Vanessa, and it's time for me to pay him. It's time to liquidate." "I know, so I'm here to help." Wade looked at Lu Chuang's travel bag. "Hey, I think you may have made a mistake. This is not a field trip. Are you going to invite Francis to have a picnic with you, and then poison him?" "Definitely not. These are my gear." Knowing that Wade didn't believe it, Lu Chuang simply opened the travel bag, poured out a large pile of guns and ammunition, and finally piled up into a hill. After doing all this, Lu Chuang said regretfully, "I know this equipment may not be enough, but the money I have saved for so long is only about 200,000 yuan, and I can only buy so much." Wade. Silent weasel with several guns. Silent. Are you going to fight on the battlefield? As a mercenary, it's reasonable to have more weapons. Are you sure it's just a little more? Weasel swallowed. He knew that Lu Chuang had a large amount of ammunition, but he didn't expect him to bring them all. Lu Chuang said, "You have to know that our opponent this time is mutant. We must not be negligent. These are good things that have been modified by me, and they can be used to deal with Francis and the others." Hearing his words, the weasel picked up a pistol, and held it in his hand to examine it carefully. "Isn't this just an ordinary M9 pistol? What's so special?" Lu Chuang grinned and said proudly, "The most special thing about this pistol is that it has a fingerprint unlocking function. Only my fingerprint can be used to shoot. If the recognition is wrong." "What happens if the recognition is wrong?" Weasel asked curiously. "It will explode in place." Weasel. "Why didn't you say it earlier?" Seeing the weasel's face turn pale, Lu Chuang explained, "I haven't had time to activate the function of this pistol, and it won't explode yet." The weasel immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and hurriedly returned the pistol to Lu Chuang, not daring to touch this pile of things again. Who knows what kind of weird weapons there will be in it. Wade looked at the pile of guns and ammunition, obviously misunderstood something, and thanked Lu Chuang. "You are still a good friend. You are indeed a bed friend who has slept together for more than 2 months. I will accept these friendship donations of yours. Get off. When the time comes when I blow that dish soap's head off, I will be the first to engrave your name on his tombstone." "You think too much. These are all my property. How could I give it to you for nothing?" After some operations, Lu Chuang successfully activated the gun in his hand. "I mean, I will go with you to deal with Francis." Wade was stunned and looked at Lu Chuang. "I know you have done a lot of things recently, but what we have to face is a group of professional armed soldiers and a female tyrannosaur who can withstand bullets. These people are not guns. More can be solved." Lu Chuang didn't answer. The fact is the best proof. Boom. Lu Chuang swung his arm violently, and a bullet escaped. Before the weasel could react, the bullet arced around him and hit the flying darts target on the rear gun. Wardfic. The weasel saw Lu Chuang shoot at him suddenly, so frightened that he subconsciously closed his eyes. But the expected pain did not hit. The weasel opened his eyes and found himself standing still intact. He panicked and said, I'm not dead. Obviously I heard gunshots." Wade looked at the hole in the flying darts target, and said with an exaggerated expression, "I think I'm hallucinating. The bullet can actually turn. I guarantee that Newton will definitely jump out of the coffin when he sees this scene. What is the principle of this? How did you do it?" Lu Chuang explained. "The principle is very simple, that is, the moment the bullet is ejected from the chamber, the shooter shakes his wrist rapidly to give the bullet a horizontal acceleration, thus forming an arc. This is the gunfighting technique." To demonstrate, Lu Chuang swung his arm again and shot an arc-shaped bullet at the weasel. Weasel. "There is a person who can self-healing next door. Why do you have to take me, an ordinary person, as a target?" "Very good, you are hired." Wade happened to be in urgent need of helpers. Seeing that Lu Chuang was so awesome, he didn't care where the other party learned new skills, so he nodded and agreed to his joining. Just then, Wade's cell phone vibrated suddenly. That dish soap sent a message. Wade looked at the content on the phone, and said angrily, Vanessa is in his hands, and he wants me to go to the waste recycling station at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. This shit, doesn't he know it's not good to take a taxi at this time? Weasel said. It seems that they have made preparations in advance, waiting for you to fall into the trap. Without further ado, Lu Chuang grabbed the guns and ammunition on the ground and began to arm himself, confidently saying, with the three of us, Francis is nothing to worry about. 3 people? Weasel asked suspiciously, do you two still have helpers? You don't think of yourself as a human. Lu Chuang had a surprised expression, as if he had heard something incredible. Weasel's face darkened. Do you have any misunderstandings about me? I am a logistician, not a combatant. 10 minutes later, Lu Chuang reappears in full armor, standing in front of the Weasel. I saw him wearing tactical equipment, with a large caliber revolver in the left and right holsters, a 12 caliber shotgun behind him, 2 rows of various ammunition crossed on his chest, and there are magazines one by one, and the back waist pack is full of large caliber ammunition bullets. Seeing this exaggerated attire, Weasel complained, is this equipment too much? You can never have too much firepower. As he said that, Lu Chuang seemed not very satisfied. He grabbed 2 grenades and stuffed them into his trouser pockets. Silent, the corner of the Weasel's mouth twitched as he watched. Wouldn't he panic with so many ammunition on his body? Compared to Lu Chuang, Wade looks much cooler. He wears a black and red tight uniform, a red mask with panda eyes on his face, and 2 katana pinned behind him. Among other things, he looks quite relaxed, unlike Lu Chuang. Lu Chuang felt uncomfortable walking like that. Wade looked at Lu Chuang's outfit, then looked at his own, and exclaimed, we will definitely be the best combination. We should give ourselves a combination name. What do you think of the Deadpool alliance? Not so good. Lu Chuang looked disgusted, and then offered his suggestion. Anyway, we both have similar abilities, so we'll call them the Immortal Duo. As long as we don't take off our clothes, this wave will definitely be stable. Undead Duo. This name is straightforward enough. I like it, so I will call it this. The location of the waste recycling station is a little far away, and you need to take a car to go there. For the 2 people in full armor, ordinary taxis are definitely useless. Maybe the driver will take them directly to the gate of the New York Police Department. Fortunately, Wade quickly called a taxi from an acquaintance. The driver was an Indian boy. When he saw Lu Chuang covered in ammunition and Wade was carrying a large bag of weapons, he just asked them what they were doing out of curiosity. He didn't see what normal people should have. Panic and scared. Sure enough, no normal person can play with Wade. Lu Chuang felt that as the only normal person among them, the pressure on him was enormous. Here, the Indian brother and Wade were chatting happily, and the Indian brother said vigorously, Mr. Deadpool, you were right before, you need to control your own destiny. To be the master of your destiny, you have as much freedom as you want. Nobody can order me. Lu Chuang looked at the map. Turn left ahead and stop. Indian brother. Okay, sir. The taxi stopped at the corner, and Lu Chuang and Wade got out of the car. From a distance, I saw the huge amounts of abandoned ship at the waste recycling station. You forgot to take your equipment gift bag. Lu Chuang glanced at the taxi and reminded Wade. Damn it. Wade quickly got his weapon bag from the taxi. He was almost fighting with 2 katanas. This guy is really unreliable. Lu Chuang curled his lips, took out his binoculars and looked at the waste recycling station. It was full of various piles of waste, but he couldn't see any figure, nor did he see Vanessa, the hostage. He made it clear that there was an ambush here. As for the deck of the abandoned ship, it was too high, and it was difficult to see the situation on it clearly. Wade, what is our plan? Lu Chuang asked. Wade grabbed 2 submachine guns. Go straight in, kill all the villains like a superhero, and then save the heroine Vanessa. In the eyes of the supporting role, the hero and heroine finally kissed passionately together. Lu Chuang shyly said, this is not good, after all Vanessa is your girlfriend, let me kiss her. Fart, the leading actor is definitely me. Because things happened so suddenly, the 2 really didn't have any time to arrange plans. Lu Chuang thought for a while, we can't just rush in like this. Hey, you've come here, don't you want to back down? I mean you can't rush forward, your girlfriend is still in their hands, If they threaten us with your girlfriend, we will be very passive. Lu Chuang analyzed from his own point of view. For example, ask us to take off the equipment, otherwise they will cut off your girlfriend's limbs. Threatening to chop off our own limbs or else. Fack. Stop talking. At this moment, Wade felt that Lu Chuang was more like an evil villain, and said in a panic, "Dude, I don't think they think as deeply as you do, but you're right, we can't just rush in, we have to find Vanessa first. So, my plan is to sneak in secretly, and then rescue Vanessa without anyone noticing, kill Francis by the way, and finally go back to each house and find each mother." That's a good proposal. After the two reached an agreement, they found a secret corner and sneaked into the waste recycling station over the wall. Ignoring the ground at the best ambush point, the two sneaked directly to the ship from the rear. When Lu Chuang and Wade sneaked into the main body of the ship, as expected, several armed soldiers appeared in their field of vision, guarding the stairway leading to the deck, and they had to pass through them if they wanted to go up. A few minutes ago, Wade would have taken both guns and charged straight up. But now, he felt that he should be more stable. Wade said in a low voice, "There are 5 people in total, I'll get rid of the 3 on the left, and leave the remaining 2 on the right to you. Don't bother." Lu Chuang took out a small pistol from his back waist. "Turn on the bullet time. Instantly lock the positions of the 5 armed soldiers, pull the trigger and fire 5 shots in a row." Biu. Accompanied by a gunshot that couldn't be louder, 5 armed soldiers fell to the ground. Wade went closer to check and found that the 5 people had a tiny anesthetic needle inserted in their necks, but they didn't know why they were all foaming at the mouth and their bodies were twitching non-stop. "What's this?" Wade couldn't help asking. "The anesthetic mixed with toxins ensures that they will die peacefully without any pain during the process, so I named this gun the Gun of Kindness." Lu Chuang explained his idea. The Gun of Kindness. Wade watched the armed soldiers' eyes widen. It was obvious that they were not unconscious, they were just unable to move due to anesthesia. Therefore, they can only watch the toxin injected into their bodies, and the body gradually reacts until the toxin completely spreads throughout the body, and finally dies without a single complaint. As you can see, there is no pain at all. After all, they are speechless, and only they know whether it hurts or not. Without the obstruction of armed soldiers, the two arrived on the deck smoothly, and saw a large group of armed soldiers gathered not far away. Among them were the figures of Francis and Gina, and at the end of them, Vanessa was trapped in the oxygen chamber that had been used to torture Wade. "Oh, they are here." The process was so smooth that Wade couldn't help but get excited. "Although the scene is not very exciting, I think I have fallen in love with this assassin style. What should we do next, whether to have a perfect assassination operation, or to have a perfect assassination operation? Human perceivable rescue operations." Unexpectedly, Lu Chuang stood up suddenly, quickly took out a few grenades and threw them over, yelling, "Assassinate a fart, such a good opportunity, definitely want to blow him up." Seeing this group of armed soldiers piled up together, Lu Chuang couldn't bear it at that time. At the moment, when is it not going to explode? It's like a passing jungler saw 2 waves of soldiers under the tower, who can resist such a temptation? Boom boom boom. A few grenades fell precisely under the feet of the armed soldiers, and dense explosions rang out. Francis and Gina were still waiting for Wade to arrive, but they were knocked to the ground by a sudden explosion. Since their positions were relatively close to Vanessa, and the grenade thrown by Lu Chuang deliberately avoided Vanessa, they were not affected by the explosion too much. When Francis and Gina came back to their senses, the ground was full of corpses and wreckage of armed soldiers, and the seriously injured armed soldiers were screaming and wailing. Only some of the armed soldiers standing outside escaped the explosion attack. And directly in front of them are the figures of Lu Chuang and Wade. "It's you." Francis was shocked by the appearance of Lu Chuang. In his opinion, the other party should have died in that fire long ago, and his body was buried at the bottom of the research institute. Francis quickly thought of something, and showed his iconic Sema face. "It seems that you, like that Joker, have activated the mutant gene in your body. I'm curious, what is your mutant ability?" Boom. Lu Chuang didn't beep with him anymore, he had a pistol in his hand at some point, and he swung his arm to pull the trigger. Wade also raised 2 submachine guns to shoot at the positions of the two, and shouted, "Eat shit, you hanger, watch our undead duo blow you up." The moment they raised their guns, Gina stood up and stood in front of Francis. The submachine gun bullets hit her without causing any actual damage. However, a bullet directly bypassed her and shot towards Francis in the rear. Francis's back suddenly felt cold, and with his reaction ability beyond ordinary people, he raised the tactical axe in his hand in time to block the bullet. A rounded bullet? Francis was startled, thinking that this was done by Lu Chuang through the mutant ability. Having personally experienced the danger of this kind of marksmanship, he immediately ordered, "Gina, don't worry about that joker. Get rid of this troublesome Asian, and don't give him a chance to shoot." Clear. Gina fixed her eyes on Lu Chuang, and her figure suddenly exploded, like a tank charging straight at Lu Chuang. "Little guy, this female Tyrannosaurus will be handed over to you." Wade took 2 steps back very shamelessly, and decisively gave way. Facing the rushing Gina, Lu Chuang's heart rate soared. With the secretion of adrenaline in the body, Lu Chuang's body functions also began to improve, and the equipment all over his body was no longer a burden. The moment Gina bumped into him, he quickly dodged sideways, and his speed increased by at least 2 times. More than double. Lu Chuang put the pistol back into his sleeve and replaced it with 2 revolvers in the left and right holsters. Bang! Bang! Huge amounts of recoil came, and 2 large caliber bullets shot at Gina's head. Gina's head just shook slightly, obviously the bullet's damage to her was still limited. Gina turned around unhurriedly. She remembered that the person in front of her was directly maimed by her punch in the research institute. Although she didn't know why the other person's injury recovered so quickly, for her, this kind of play gun opponents pose no threat at all. You know, her skin is not afraid of bullets. Unless it is bombed by heavy weapons, it is very difficult to hurt her steel body. It is a joke to use a gun to deal with her. Gina looked at Lu Chuang playfully, and said with a sneer, "Hee hee, little guy, is that what you're capable of? If it's just like this, then you can die. Let me see if you can survive this time. Come down." Strange yin and yang. Lu Chuang narrowed his eyes, raised the revolver and pulled the trigger again. Facing the black muzzle of the gun, Gina didn't care, and walked towards Lu Chuang with a smile, without even moving to dodge. Similarly, this time the bullet still hit her head. Gina just instinctively blocked her eyes and let the bullets shoot over. Who knows? The moment the 2 bullets touched her, the bullets suddenly exploded and turned into 2 balls of flames, directly enveloping her entire head. On the other side, Francis and Wade started a fierce duel at the same time, and there were still remnants of armed soldiers attacking Wade, trying to suppress Wade with fierce firepower. Wade smiled strangely and raised his submachine gun to shoot Francis, but suddenly the barrel of the gun clicked several times. Wade looked at the submachine gun suspiciously, but found that it was out of bullets, and shrugged embarrassedly at everyone. It's embarrassing. Regardless of the funny Wade, Francis found the right time to strike him with an axe. Wade let out a strange cry, and was instantly smashed into a sieve by the surging bullets. Looking at the fast self-healing muzzle on Wade, Francis raised the corner of his mouth and said, "I have to admit, I may have underestimated your ability before. The self-healing ability that can be resurrected from the dead reminds me of a mutant. Your self-healing ability is very similar to his. Moreover, it also has huge amounts of research value." There was greed in Francis's eyes. If he had known that Wade's self-healing ability was so powerful, he would not have thrown Wade in that research institute. He wanted to study the other's body more than sell it for a good price. As long as you unlock the secret of self-healing ability, its value can be imagined. Wade pulled out 2 katanas, and said fiercely, "Trust me, I will cut your head open later, and study whether your stupid head is filled with brains or shit." Just when they were about to make a move, they suddenly heard a piercing scream. That's from Gina. Ah! Gina, who was showing off her power just now. At the moment, she frantically slapped her fiery head, and a piercing scream burst out of her mouth. Those who hear it are sad, and those who hear it cry. Francis was shocked, and quickly looked at Gina's position. Could it be that person could hurt Gina? With Gina's ability, it was hard for Francis to imagine what kind of pain Gina, a strong woman like a bull, had suffered to make such a girlish scream. Gina screamed and finally extinguished the flame on her head. Obviously, the flames still couldn't break through her steel skin, that is to say, her face was smoky like a black man. If you want to say that the most eye-catching thing is her black hair with big back. Obviously, Gina's hair has not been strengthened. The flame can't damage her face, but it can damage her hair. After the continuous baptism of the flame, the hair on the top of her forehead is completely fuzzy, exuding a smell similar to burnt feathers. The smell, the hairline moved back nearly 10 centimeters. In the eyes of others, Gina's hair is like a half-worn wig, revealing a shiny forehead. Just, pretty bald. Gina touched her forehead in disbelief, as if she couldn't accept this fact. Puff. Seeing Gina's new hairstyle, Lu Chuang couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. Under Gina's cannibalistic gaze, he waved his hand embarrassedly. Believe me, this is purely an accident. I think this hairstyle is barely acceptable. Well, can you stop your brain? Door. I'm afraid I'll laugh. I am going to kill you. Gina's eyes were bloodshot, and the ground suddenly collapsed under her feet. She crossed a distance of several meters in the blink of an eye, and her tall figure rushed to Lu Chuang in an instant, and her fists carried terrible force. Lu Chuang immediately retreated to create a distance, turned his head and narrowly avoided a right uppercut, and Gina's fist hit the rear container hard. The steel shell dented instantly, and let out a scream of unbearable weight. Taking advantage of Gina's short pause, Lu Chuang raised the revolver in his hand, leaned towards Gina's head and shot. Call. The bullet turned into flames, setting Gina's head on fire. Her hair was brutally murdered again. Gina didn't even have time to take care of Lu Chuang in front of her. She screamed and slapped the flames, and when the flames dissipated, the hair on her head was burned into pits and pits. Little harm, but highly insulting. Touching her diarrhea, Gina's face was so gloomy that she could squeeze out water. Her eyes were fixed on Lu Chuang. Her eyes were full of murderous intent, and her cold voice almost came from between her teeth. Squeezed out abruptly. When I catch you, I will pull out your hair one by one. Lu Chuang asked in surprise. No, no, is it urgent? Hearing his words, Gina gritted her teeth. With this new look, it seems that there is a posture of glaring King Kong. Damn guy. Gina let out a low growl, and her speed increased a bit, her body violently clinging to Lu Chuang. When dealing with enemies armed with guns, she chose to close the distance with great experience. She was tall and cumbersome, but her body movements were extremely agile. There were obvious signs of fighting between her movements. Lu Chuang launched a fierce offensive. However, as if Lu Chuang had predicted it in advance, he kept moving his feet and dodged her fist in various strange postures. The muzzle flashed, and several flames accurately ignited Gina's head. Facts have proved that once a woman is rage, she is much more crazy than a man. In this state, Gina didn't care about the image anymore. She let her hair be ignited by the flames, and just like this, with her head in flames, she frantically waved her fists at Lu Chuang. Ghost Rider, is that you? Lu Chuang was startled. He didn't expect Gina to be so fierce. Seeing that he couldn't keep the distance, Lu Chuang immediately reached out and took out a grenade. Noticing Lu Chuang's movements, Gina snorted coldly, and said disdainfully, "You don't think the grenade is useful to me, and don't forget that you are also in the explosion range. I want to see if you dare to detonate." Okay. Then show me clearly. Lu Chuang pulled out the safety pin without any hesitation, and closed his eyes like dying. Gina was not afraid. She jumped at Lu Chuang with wide eyes. The next moment, a dazzling glare flickered. Boom. Ah. Following the huge amounts of explosion, Gina covered her eyes and fell down in pain, tears streaming down her eyes, and her ears were temporarily deaf. It's not a F*King grenade at all. It's a flash bomb. Even with Gina's steel body, the eyes and ears are still the most vulnerable parts. As a result, she opened her eyes stupidly and stared directly at the flash bomb, which was unbearable to anyone. Now she only feels the pain in her eyes. Nothing could be seen in the vast expanse of whiteness, and the ears could not hear anything. I didn't expect it. It looks like a grenade, but it's actually a flash bomb. At such a close distance, Lu Chuang was also affected, and his thin eyelids could not block the strong light at all. He was crying and did not forget to introduce his own creativity, although both parties at the moment could not hear each other's voice. "I am going to kill you." "Ah. What are you talking about? I can't hear you louder." "Go to hell." Under Lu Chuang's self-healing ability, the body quickly counteracts the negative state of the flash bomb. As the sight gradually recovered, Lu Chuang saw Gina standing not far away with a naked head, punching the Shaolin Vajra fist vigorously, and constantly uttering various curses from her mouth. At the same time, a large number of armed soldiers rushed onto the deck from the stairs. Obviously, they were ambushing at the waste recycling station before, and came here after hearing the explosion. When they ran to the deck of the abandoned cruise ship and saw Gina punching there, they couldn't help but froze. Where is the nun so fierce? Immediately afterwards, they saw Lu Chuang armed to the teeth, and Wade waving katana in the distance, and they knew immediately that this was the enemy they were going to ambush. As a result, no one expected that the enemy would not go through the main entrance, but sneaked in behind and took their large troops away. The armed soldiers didn't have time to think about it, and immediately drew their guns and shot at Lu Chuang, who was the closest. Da 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 da. As the howling bullets hit, Lu Chuang immediately used a sliding shovel to hide behind the container next to him. Seeing that the target disappeared, the armed soldiers did not stop firing. Instead, they sent out a group of small teams to suppress the firepower, and the rest of them continued to approach Lu Chuang's position on two sides with their guns in hand. At this moment, the crisp sound of clanging continued to be heard from the rear of the container. I saw a lot of smoke coming out of the container, and as the wind direction gradually covered the positions of the armed soldiers, the sight of the armed soldiers was blocked, and there were a few dull bangs in their ears. Damn it! He's up there! Someone found Lu Chuang on the container. But it was too late. Lu Chuang, who was standing on the container, jumped high and jumped directly into the middle of them. The firearm in his hand had been replaced with a modified M93R submachine gun. Bullet time is on. Lu Chuang only felt his blood pressure rise suddenly, his heart beating violently, and the movements of all armed soldiers became slow. Suddenly, the arms are raised and the trigger is pulled. Bang bang bang. Lu Chuang's figure slid and spun around, constantly swinging his arms to control the rapid movement of the muzzle of the gun, seemingly indiscriminate shooting, but each bullet could accurately shoot through the enemy. In less than a few seconds, all the bullets in the magazine were fired. But the gunfire didn't stop. As the new magazine was loaded into the pistol through the device, the muzzle flame flickered in the smoke again. Every time the fire flashed, there would be one less standing figure in the smoke. Under the oppression of fear, the armed soldiers roared. He raised his automatic rifle to fight back, but he couldn't hit that damned figure. God! What kind of monster is this? The armed soldiers are terrified. This battle is not fair to them at all. Lu Chuang doesn't care what they think. He has a super high school level sharpshooter. Facing this kind of direct shooting skills is almost like hitting a child. Before the smoke dissipated, he shot and directly solved it. Last person. Boom. The corpse with its head exploded fell on its back. Lu Chuang grabbed two pistols and stood quietly on the pile of corpses. This is what Gina saw when she regained some vision. At this time, she realized that she had been punching a whole set of bastard punches at a distance of more than 10 meters. Fack. Gina growled with red and swollen eyes, grabbed a giant tire beside her, and threw it at Lu Chuang like a discus. Although Lu Chuang saw the roar of the violent wind, he had no time to dodge the tire that was bigger than himself, so he could only forcefully raise his right arm to block the front, and suddenly felt a terrifying force coming. His whole body he was directly hit by the tire and flew to the iron wall more than 10 meters away. Lu Chuang spat out a mouthful of blood. His right arm was severely twisted and shapeshifting, and it looked like a broken bone. Gina walked in front of him with red and swollen eyes. Seeing Lu Chuang's miserable state, she showed a cheerful smile. Disgusting little bug, I finally caught you. Do you have any last words? Yes, I want to take a sip of happy fat house water. Lu Chuang trembled, took out a can of Coke from his trouser pocket, and pulled off the cap with one hand. Go to hell and drink. Gina smiled cruelly, and raised her fist to smash his head. However, the can of Coke suddenly exploded, sent out a familiar strong light. Unexpectedly, it looks like a can of Coke, but it's actually a flash bomb. Lu Chuang burst into tears, proudly introducing the idea. Gina. Silent in spite of Ji Yubai's boundless vision, Gina continued to raise her fist and hit the location in memory. However, Lu Chuang had expected her action long ago. A lazy donkey rolled to the left, and at the same time took off the shotgun that had been carried behind his back, put his half-recovered arm against the barrel, and assumed a standard shooting posture. Squeeze the trigger directly at Gina's position. Boom. Even with Gina's steel and iron bones, at such a close range, the terrifying power of the shotgun still knocked Gina back a few steps, and the faint pain in her ribs made her groan. Finally broke the defense. Lu Chuang's heart skipped a beat, and as his sight recovered, he mercilessly pulled the trigger towards Gina. Bang 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 bang. Gunshots rang out one after another, and the shotgun bullets made Gina back away. The invisible Gina could only be helpless and furious, passively accepting Lu Chuang's shooting. She couldn't understand why Lu Chuang, who was also affected by the flash bomb, could still shoot so accurately, and why he could still operate a shotgun with huge amounts of recoil after his arm was broken. Only Francis, who was fighting with Wade, noticed Lu Chuang's rapidly recovering arm. Even faster than Wade's self-healing. At first Francis thought that Lu Chuang's variant ability was related to that magical marksmanship. So he wanted Gina to deal with the opponent quickly, and then control the most troublesome Wade. After all, Wade's self-healing ability is really annoying. Even if the head is split with an axe, it can return to normal in a short time. The longer it takes, the worse it is for them. But now, he unexpectedly discovered that Lu Chuang also possesses self-healing ability. And the recovery speed is not weaker than Wade. 2 self-healing abilities. Francis's expression remained unchanged, but his heart was filled with turmoil. When did self-healing ability become so popular? Looking at the armed soldiers who were almost killed by Wade, Francis yelled at the beaten Gina. That guy also has self-healing ability. Don't think about killing him, find a way to control that guy. However, Gina, who had tinnitus, only heard a buzzing sound. Thinking that Lu Chuang was mocking herself, Gina was furious. Shut up, you bug. Francis. Silent, how can I scold people? Lu Chuang smiled cheerfully. Without interrupting their conversation, he reloaded the shotgun unhurriedly, and then shot at Gina again. All the dense steel balls hit her. The opponent's skin can certainly resist the bullets penetrating, but unable to weaken the accompanying powerful impact. Gina was beaten back again and again, and her ribs were broken after being hit many times, but her sight still hadn't recovered, so she could only accept the beating with her head in her arms. For some reason, Lu Chuang always has the feeling of beating Mei Chaofeng. Although Mei Chaofeng is a bit bald, Lu Chuang fired all the shotguns at once, and looked at Gina, who had broken bones in many parts of her body but hadn't lost her fighting power. He was a little surprised in his heart. This defensive power is too exaggerated. Is it true that all beings are equal before the promised trolls? I have to say that mutants' ability is really abnormal. I didn't feel it when I watched the movie, but when they really appeared in front of my eyes, Lu Chuang realized how terrifying these people are. Just a strengthening body can make the guns and weapons that human beings rely on directly useless, let alone it's those more weird and changeable variant abilities. Lu Chuang sighed, then took out a few grenades and threw them at Gina's feet. Boom. The grenade exploded instantly, and Gina was overturned to the ground, with bloody wounds all over her body. It was obvious that she was not as tough as she imagined, and a few grenades still disintegrated her defense. Gina lay trembling on the ground. Did this guy hide an arsenal? After fighting for so long, there is still so much ammunition. Not dead yet. Isn't this life force too terrifying? Lu Chuang, who possessed the self-healing ability, said so, and took off his jacket leisurely, revealing a C4 bomb tied inside. Yes, he had a C4 bomb strapped to him the whole time. In order to deal with Gina in front of him, Lu Chuang has already preset a whole set of equipment. Among them is the most powerful C4 bomb. He has already seen its power in the frozen warehouse, and this time he deliberately increased the dose of explosives, fearing that it would not kill such a thick-skinned tank. The opponent loses combat power to ensure that the opponent is at the very center of the explosion. For this reason, Lu Chuang gave this scheme, which combined several killing weapons, a particularly famous name. 3,000 for your life. At the moment Gina opened her eyes, which were swollen like walnuts, and managed to recover a sliver of vision. Gina, however, sees a C4 bomb drop in front of her, frantically flashing red. Fack. Boom. Deafening explosions resounded all around. With Gina as the center, the flames soared into the sky, forming a small mushroom. Hearing the explosion, Francis and Wade looked back at the same time. I saw a scorched black corpse fell from the air to the ground, covered with various scars, and died in an extremely tragic manner. From that ferocious face, it can be seen how unwilling he was before birth, and how aggrieved his death was. Then, they saw Lu Chuang approaching, looked at the two of them in surprise and said, "No, it's not resolved yet, I've finished fighting the boss." Hurry up, Wade replied, slashing Francis with katana wildly. "Damn guy, die to me, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends and girlfriends." Francis's expression twisted. "I'm an embarrassment for you to be alive?" Bang bang. 2 shots were fired. Francis couldn't spare his hand to block, he was shot in both legs and fell to the ground. "Shiete. Give me a little more time and I can solve it, I don't need your help at all." Wade looked at Lu Chuang dissatisfied. "You sure?" Lu Chuang pointed to Vanessa, who was watching the show in the instrument all the time. "After your girlfriend found out about your identity, and saw that you didn't save her but focused on fighting with a man, what do you think will happen?" "Damn it." Wade threw away 2 katana decisively, and ran towards Vanessa with brisk steps. "Vanessa, wait for me, I'm here to save you." Ignoring Wade, Lu Chuang walked up to Francis and poked him on the head with a pistol. "Long time no see, dish soap, how are you doing?" Francis looked at Lu Chuang expressionlessly. After Gina died, he knew that the situation was over, and his ability couldn't deal with the 2 monsters with self-healing ability at all. "I didn't expect that you got the same self-healing ability as that idiot, no wonder you all survived." Francis dropped the 2 axes without any panic or fear on his face. He has already lost his nerve endings, and he is not afraid of the threat of death at all. "To be honest, I am quite envious of you guys. I was a patient of the research institute myself. Unfortunately, my awakening mutant ability is not very powerful. It just enhanced my reaction ability and my physical fitness. Although I don't feel any pain, but my wounds don't self-heal instantly." Francis grinned like a victor. "You should be grateful to me. I let you obtain this powerful ability. The self-healing factor in your body can repair all injuries. This is the ability that many people dream of." "Screw your shit." Lu Chuang slammed down the butt of the gun directly, and said fiercely, "I, Lu Chuang, can be as strong as I am today, never relying on external force, only relying on my own efforts and ability." Francis. "Silent, have some face. Some time ago I saw that you were still an ordinary person. Where did you come from for your hard work and ability? But if the patient goes to become a doctor, you can also play." Lu Chuang recalled that Francis was only the manager of the perverted research institute, not the actual controller of the research institute, so he couldn't help asking curiously, "Since he is not the founder of the research institute, who is the person behind the research institute?" "Hehe. Do you think I'll tell you? I think you will." Lu Chuang looked at Francis and thought about it. "I don't feel any pain, right? It's okay, I have plenty of solutions. For example, put you in a completely closed coffin, and then bury you in the deepest soil, so that you are completely isolated from the outside world. There is no light, no sound, and you can't even feel the passage of time. There are only endless things around you. Darkness and silence. It is said that no one can last 5 days with this method, and they all went crazy in the end. If it's more troublesome, I'll find a mutant who can repair your nerve endings, and ask him to repair your nerve endings. Then you can do whatever you want. First, I will ask you to chop a 360-degree fork in the air." The more Lu Chuang talked, the more excited he was. At the end, he rubbed his palms together, as if eager to try. 360 splits? Francis's eyelids twitched a few times. Is this something humans can think of? The threat did work for Francis, though. He felt that if he didn't say anything, with Lu Chuang's character, he would definitely do this kind of thing, and maybe there would be even more vicious things waiting for him. "I only know that I work for a company named Essex, and I am responsible for managing the operations of several research institute branches. As for the higher-level managers of the company, I don't know." Francis said, very bachelor. Anyway, he only works for money, and has no so-called loyalty to the people above him. Essex Company. Lu Chuang pondered. If he remembers correctly, This company has appeared several times in mutant movies. It seems to be a company that likes to collect mutant genes. Among them, they have collected Wolverine Logan's genes, and the Wolverine clone in Wolverine 3 is the product they created. Generally speaking, it can be regarded as a villain organization. So, the story here involves mutant. Lu Chuang didn't care. After all, he is not a mutant. His abilities are all derived from super high school level talents, and have nothing to do with the mutant ability at all. By the way, the serum you injected me back then needed adrenaline as a catalyst, right? Francis nodded silently. Lu Chuang was thoughtful. It seemed that the serum had no effect on him as a time traveler. He didn't know how much adrenaline he secreted during bullet time. If the serum was effective, his genes would have mutated long ago. At this time, Wade came over with his girlfriend Vanessa. Seeing that Wade had taken off his mask, Lu Chuang knew that he had confessed to Vanessa, and now he probably wanted Francis to restore his disfigured face. Definitely, Lu Chuang knew this was impossible. Lu Chuang threw Francis over. "I'll leave this guy to you. I'll go pick up the equipment that exploded. I'm running out of ammunition, so I need to replenish it." Seeing that there are still several grenades and magazines hanging on Lu Chuang's body, Wade is a bit lost. What do you call running out? 10 minutes later, Lu Chuang ran back dragging a lot of guns and ammunition, and he also found a motorcycle by the way. He then saw Francis's body lying on the ground with a bloody hole in his forehead. Nailed it. Fack. This guy can't fix my face. Wade yelled angrily. As if he didn't feel satisfied, he raised his foot and kicked Francis's body. During this period of time, he was frantically looking for Francis, just to heal his face, but after working so hard for so long, he got a sentence that he could not save and wait for death. In his temper, he directly shot Francis. Lu Chuang patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. "Think about it, although you are a little ugly, at least you can't die from cancer. Unlike me, you are neither ugly nor have cancer. What troubles nothing." Wade. Silent Vanessa. Silent Vanessa glanced at Wade. Sure enough, none of the men around you are normal. After Francis died, Lu Chuang and Wade left the deck respectively. Wade called the Indian brother again, and couldn't wait to take Vanessa home. Due to the newly harvested batch of firearms and ammunition, Lu Chuang did not take a taxi back with Wade, but drove all the way back to his apartment on the motorcycle he had just picked up, and began to study a new transformation plan. After today's battle, Lu Chuang found that his plan of killing you for 3,000 was not strong enough, and in the end he had to use the C4 bomb to completely kill Gina. You must know that in his plan preset, the level 1 section of the shotgun should break through Gina's defense, and then use the grenade to kill the opponent. As a result, a shotgun with such great lethality could not break through the opponent's physical defense at all. Lu Chuang has a new understanding of these abilities. Therefore, he must quickly increase the damage limit of the plan, at least by the bazooka. Someone once said that truth is only within the range of a cannon. Lu Chuang has always been a reasonable person, and he hopes that his enemies can understand his truth. "I came to my senses, and I realized that I could contribute more to the world than making weapons, so I decided to close Stark Industries' weapons division, effective immediately, until I found new goals for the company and other directions that I felt were right, and consistent with the best interests of the nation." On the TV screen of the bar, a man with a signature beard stood on the stage and announced to everyone. This person is the big boss of Stark Industries, Tony Stark. The stock of Stark Industries has plummeted since Tony Stark disappeared, and most people think he died in Afghanistan. As a result, they never expected that Tony Stark would appear in everyone's field of vision again, and in this high-profile press conference, he suddenly announced this amazing decision. As we all know, Stark Industries made its fortune from the arms business. Before Tony Stark came back, Stark Industries' biggest profit was still the arms business, but now that Stark Industries' arms department said it would shut down, it almost directly destroyed more than half of Stark Industry. Everyone was shocked by Tony Stark's decision, especially those stock investors who saw Tony Stark's return and began to grab shares were going crazy. No need to think about it, you can guess that the rooftop must be very lively the next day. The weasel wiped the wine glass in his hand, feeling a little absurd and said, "This Tony Stark must have been played by those terrorists. An arms dealer does not sell arms, so is he planning to switch to selling beer? Lu Chuang drank the happy fat house water and said calmly, maybe he changed his career to blacksmithing. Only he knows that Tony Stark's return means Iron Man is coming. Title triggers. Great Inventor, completable. Unlock condition. Defeat Iron Man Tony Stark's steel battlesuit with a high-tech battlesuit made by yourself, 0/1. Title awarded. Inventor of Super High School Level. Without any warning, the game system suddenly popped up new content. Another new unlock task. Lu Chuang was a little surprised. So far, he has only triggered 2 achievement tasks. Each achievement task appears randomly, and there is no time limit, so it depends on luck to trigger the achievement task. And now, it was the 3rd time he had triggered the achievement mission. However, when Lu Chuang saw the content of the achievement task clearly, he almost sprayed the happy fat house water on the weasel's face. What the hell? Beat Iron Man Tony Stark in a high-tech battlesuit built by yourself. Are you sure you are not kidding me? Lu Chuang was dumbfounded. This was the first time he saw that the achievement task of the game system was directly related to someone. Even more outrageous is the task content. To know who Tony Stark is, that's the Kryptonian of the Marvel Universe. He roughly estimated that the cost of a pair of steel armor for Tony Stark is at least hundreds of millions of USD, and the price of missile weapons thrown at random is in the millions. This is not a battle, it is clearly burning money. As one of the top fill money players in the Marvel world, Tony Stark has dozens of sets of steel armor alone. Others play with figurines, but he plays with steel armor, and the effect of steel armor becomes more powerful as time goes on. In the later stage, you can wear Hulk armor and directly hit Hulk. How to fight this? Besides, he doesn't know how to make any high-tech battlesuits. With his level of knowledge, he could at most make a suit of armor that he could barely wear, but compared to Tony Stark's steel armor that could fly, launch missiles, and fire energy cannons, it was simply a world of difference. And what kind of material is used for Tony Stark's steel armor? All of which are top-notch aviation technology materials, and the defense is definitely tough. Hard resistance to missiles is trivial, so it's not like Gina's mutant can compare then. And if Lu Chuang can make the most powerful armor weapon, it is estimated that only his brain will collapse. But the problem is, he can't use his brains to fight Tony Stark's steel battlesuit. He was afraid that Tony Stark would die laughing on the spot. For the first 2 achievement tasks, it is possible to see the feasibility of completing them. As for this task, Lu Chuang can't think of any way to complete it for the time being. Among other things, with Tony Stark's identity and background, Lu Chuang really can't do it casually. Fortunately, the achievement task is not a mandatory or time-limited task, and he has a lot of time to slowly figure out a solution. Compared with this, Lu Chuang has a problem that needs to be solved more. That means he doesn't have enough money. After buying a large amount of firearms and ammunition before, Lu Chuang's assets are running out now, only enough to maintain his normal life, but it is obviously impossible for him to buy more powerful weapons. Lu Chuang looked at Weasel. Is there any high-paying commission recently, and I am in urgent need of money. He swells. He has a super high school level sharpshooter, and now he can completely accept higher level commissions. For the weird arc ballistic technique, it is perfect for assassination. Just like the perfect assassination a few days ago, no living person could find his trace during the whole process. Weasel nodded. Now that he has a general understanding of Lu Chuang's strength, he didn't say anything about the difficulty. Yes, but those high-paying commissions are generally not here, such as the extermination of Mexican drug cartels. The location is Harry's in Mexico. In Colorado, the salary is probably more than 5 million. Not from other countries, preferably within New York. Lu Chuang resolutely vetoed it. He did not intend to travel so far to complete the commission. In New York, there are a few high-paying commissions. Weasel seemed to think of something, and said, but the highest reward is your high reward, but there is good news. Your reward is now down to 4 million. Lu Chuang was a little surprised. Could it be that the conscience of those gangsters found out? How is it possible? Their consciences have long been eaten by dogs. The Weasel looked like you were joking, and then explained. Your reward is high because your identity has not been discovered, and now the reward has been lowered. I guess your accomplice was caught. You mean the Punisher? Lu Chuang frowned. Isn't his accomplice Frank? Yes. What a poor guy. People who provoke gangsters usually end up miserable. If I fell into the hands of those crazy gangsters, I would definitely choose to commit suicide. You can never imagine what happened to those gangsters. How cruel the means will be. Speaking of this, Weasel looked at Lu Chuang worriedly. You have to be careful. Maybe your information has already been confessed by the other party. I hope you are not an idiot enough to reveal your address. If you did, I beg you, find a place to move out as soon as possible, and move to Wade's place. Weasel doesn't want the apartment he rented out to be bumped by gangsters who come to him. Who's going to live with me? A frivolous voice came, and Wade, wearing a mask, came over and sat down beside Lu Chuang. I warn you, don't even think about it. No one can disturb my world with Vanessa, except the IRS. Weasel exaggerated. Oh, look who is here, America's good boyfriend Wade Wilson. I thought you would hold Vanessa all the time and wouldn't let go. Lu Chuang was also surprised to see Wade coming. Since Wade and Vanessa met, the long-lost couple wanted to be together every day, and they hardly saw Wade these days. Think about it too, only the exhausted cow has no damaged fields, but if this cow is fully mechanized, it can be plowing the land all the time. That's what I thought, but there's one thing scarier than the IRS coming to you. What's the matter? I'm out of money. Wade shrugged his shoulders and lay down on the table dejectedly. Are you short of money too? Lu Chuang asked curiously. Definitely. Although Wade became a mercenary earlier than Lu Chuang, his savings is really not much. It should be said that the people of America do not have the habit of saving money, and he has been busy looking for Francis some time ago, so it is impossible to entrust him. Thinking of the increasing expenses of himself and Vanessa recently, Wade said eagerly, quickly introduce me to some new jobs. The best range of activities is in New York, so that I can work in the morning and find Vanessa in the evening. Work. Hearing this, Lu Chuang suddenly had an idea. Wade, here is a commission with several million USD, are you interested? Millions of USD. Wade suddenly became interested, and immediately asked, what is the content of the entrustment? It's as simple as catching a guy and handing him over to the gang to get paid millions of dollars. There is such a good thing. Wade asked impatiently. Who is the target person and where is it in New York? Let me tell you first. If the time is too long or the distance is too far, I am not interested. Vanessa is still waiting. Follow me home. Don't worry, there is no difficulty in this commission, and you also know the target person, and the distance is very close. I know. Who? I. Lu Chuang drank the happy fat house water in one gulp, showing a bright smile. Let's do it, I won't resist. We agreed in advance that we will pay you 5 or 5 cents. Above the pitch-black sky, gloomy black clouds block the moonlight. The colorful lights of the city in the distance are in stark contrast to the lifeless West Midtown, as if heaven and hell are separated by the Hudson River. Here is the cradle of criminals, the infamous Hell's Kitchen. On a quiet street, several black cadres parked at the corner. A group of Russians led by Vladimir got out of the car, and saw Wesley in a suit and leather shoes standing in front of an iron gate, followed by several black-clothed bodyguards. The cold light in Vladimir's eyes was sharp, and he scanned his surroundings. Where's the damn attacker? Don't worry, since you agreed to our future work assistance, what my employer promised you will naturally be done. Wesley smiled. Immediately afterwards, he nodded to the black-clothed bodyguards, and the black-clothed bodyguards immediately opened the iron door behind them. Crunch. The heavy iron door was pushed open with a light thud, and a faint smell of blood rushed over. The indoor space is very small, surrounded by iron walls, and in the center is a burly man. I saw that his hands and feet were wrapped with iron chains, and his whole body was tied to a small seat. He was covered in scarlet blood as if he had just been fished out of a pool of blood. Judging from his wounds, these bloodstains should not all belong to him. Seeing this man, Wesley couldn't help sighing. This is the famous Punisher. We spent a lot of effort to lure him out and catch him. Even so, we have lost a lot here. With few people, this fighting power is really amazing. But please rest assured, according to our agreement, he is already yours, so we didn't torture him. Vladimir did not reply, but stared hard at Frank in front of him. Before, their Russian Ross gang also sent a large number of people to arrest this guy. As a result, they encountered various obstacles every time they acted, and Frank ran away in the end. Vladimir, no fool, quickly guessed that someone was trying to stop him from capturing Frank. Under pressure, Vladimir finally agreed to Wesley's suggestion, giving up Anatoly's former territory and handing it over to them to take over, while their people fully assisted in the arrest operation. It wasn't long before Vladimir received word that Frank had been caught. Vladimir walked up to Frank and said coldly, "You killed Anatoly?" Frank looked up at Vladimir calmly. He recognized the identity of Vladimir, the biggest leader of the Ross gang in Russia. Curling his lips in disdain, Frank definitely knew who the murderer of Anatoly was, but he didn't care about it at all, and he didn't care about taking the blame for himself. He just mocked. "I killed a lot of people, and they were all guilty. Which bastard are you talking about, Anatoly?" Boom. Rage's Vladimir punched through. The veins in Vladimir's neck bulged, and he grabbed Frank's collar. "I know you have another companion, tell me where he is." Frank spat bloody saliva and put on a "that's it" expression. The result was that Vladimir was beaten up violently, and Frank just didn't snort during the whole process. After beating Frank to a bloody mess, Vladimir snarled, "Tell me who that damned attacker is and what his name is. If you don't, I guarantee you will die a terrible death." Frank opened his swollen and blue eyes, calmly watching Vladimir roaring helplessly. He is a professionally trained soldier, and he is not afraid of any cruel torture. Although he and Lu Chuang have only met once, he just wants to see the anger of these bastards, so naturally he will not reveal the slightest bit information. Frank said hoarsely, "You're not going to find him, ever." Vladimir punched down again. Seeing that Frank was so stubborn, he turned to Wesley angrily. "Tell me, where is the other attacker?" "We're investigating." Wesley pushed his glasses. "In fact, once they find out, they will find someone to silence them directly, and they will definitely not leave this insider to Vladimir. It's just that Vladimir lost such a territory, how could he listen to such useless nonsense?" Vladimir raised his blood-stained palm and grabbed Wesley's shoulder unceremoniously. "If you take my territory, you must send another attacker over, and I want them both to die in my hands." Wesley frowned. "You know, it will take time, after all, the other party can't take the initiative to deliver it to the door." Just then, a Russian came over. Another assailant was found. Someone said that he caught the person offering the reward just when the toilet was convenient, and said that he would personally send it to the door to receive the reward. Wesley. Silent Frank. Silent. Half an hour later, the iron door of the room was pushed open. The first person to walk in was a strange man in black and red tights and a red mask. He was holding a rope in his hand, and looking along the end of the rope, he saw a figure tied tightly by the rope and dragged into the room. This person also wore a mask on his head, looking like it was a plastic bag I picked up from a convenience store and put it on. The man in tights, that is, Wade, looked around the room, saw the gangsters in the room, and Frank, who was covered in blood, and said hello enthusiastically. "Hey, are you having a party here? How about adding me?" Vladimir walked forward and looked directly at Wade. "You are the one who completed my bounty. Looking at your villainous appearance, I knew you must be the boss here, right?" Wade grabbed the rope and pulled the figure behind him, with his arms akimbo. He said, "That's right, I brought 4 million, and he is the one who offered the reward." Wesley narrowed his eyes slightly. He was shrewd and quickly noticed something was wrong. He asked, "You said he was the one who was offered a reward. How do you prove it, and how did you find out?" Facing Wesley's questioning, Wade did not panic, but talked eloquently. "This matter has to start with a Mexican chicken wrap. I ate a Mexican chicken wrap on the street today, and it didn't take long before I suddenly felt I had a severe pain in my stomach, so I found a toilet." "Shut up and get to the point," Vladimir interrupted him impatiently. Wade shrugged. "At that time, I saw a man in the toilet, which exactly matched the description on the reward, and then I caught him here." As he spoke, he took off his mask, and this figure was Lu Chuang in disguise. The expressions of Vladimir and Wesley froze instantly. They remembered the description of the other attacker on the bounty, which seemed to be only one simple word. Asian. Looking at Lu Chuang's skin color again, it really fits perfectly. Vladimir's complexion was very bad, and now he seriously suspected that the man who was tied up was a passer-by that the man in tights randomly grabbed from the toilet. He said in a bad tone, I need stronger proof. If I can't prove this guy's identity, I will think you are amusing me, and you will die. Oh, calm down. I definitely can prove that he is the one on the bounty. How to prove? Wesley continued to question. If this person is fake, he can expose their identities on the spot. If this person is real, he must also be identified as fake. He must not let the real attacker fall into Vladimir's hands. Wade poked Lu Chuang's waist with his fingers, and made a fierce expression on his face. Regardless of whether others could see his face under the mask, he asked sharply, "Quickly tell me, are you the one who put the bounty on?" Lu Chuang showed panic, and his eyes revealed an expression of disbelief. "You actually discovered this? What a keen observation, what a meticulous judgment." "That's right. I'm the man who was offered a reward of 4 million. If you're smart, let me go. When I reach the reward of 100 million and become Shichibukai, I'll make you my crew." Wade nodded and spread his hands to everyone. "You heard it." Wesley. Silent Vladimir. Silent Frank. Silent. Frank thought the wound was painful at first, but now his head hurts even more. When Lu Chuang took off the mask, although he didn't know why the other party put on a fake beard and wore a pair of glasses, he still recognized Lu Chuang's identity at a glance. After seeing that Lu Chuang was really arrested, Frank was surprised. After all, he was too famous, and all criminals knew that his target was criminals, so the group of gangsters could set up a trap to lure him into the trap. But Lu Chuang's situation is completely different from his. The other party originally did not reveal much information. Even if this group of gangsters covered almost the entire New York intelligence network, it would be difficult to find Lu Chuang's traces under such a huge amount of information gap. Frank originally thought that Lu Chuang fell into the hands of a powerful intelligence organization, and was captured by the opponent after a life-and-death struggle. Frank had already imagined all kinds of fierce battle scenes in his mind. But now it seems, this is clearly a self-destruct infantry. He actually blew himself up when he was asked casually. In his many years of interrogation career, it was the first time that Frank saw such an unpretentious prisoner. In less than half a second, he directly refreshed the record of the prisoner telling the information the fastest in his entire interrogation career. Frank took a deep breath, still holding a glimmer of hope in his heart. Although the opponent is a pig teammate, Lu Chuang's identity is still uncertain. After all, the two of them belong to outsiders. Even if they admit it themselves, there is no way to prove whether what they said is true. This group of gangsters are not philanthropists, and they can't buy it with 4 million USD without evidence. The life of a man who claimed to be a murderer. Indeed, Vladimir also thought of this. He really wanted to catch the murderer, but he didn't want to spend a lot of money to catch a passer-by who wasn't the murderer. Ever since, he recruited a Russian Ross who had hunted down Lu Chuang and Frank at that time. Pointing to Lu Chuang, Vladimir asked, "Is that the Asian guy you saw earlier?" The Russian looked Lu Chuang carefully. Then, he nodded confidently. "It's him. It's him. Looks exactly the same, I remember his beard." Frank. Silent. This is no longer face blindness, this is blindness, right? Some of the parties voluntarily admitted it before, and later it was identified by the Russians. Seeing that Lu Chuang was more and more suspected of being the attacker, Wesley knew that if he didn't do anything about it, their plan would go wrong. So, Wesley said, "With all due respect, I don't think these statements can prove anything." "Oh. Do you think my men are telling lies?" Vladimir stared at Wesley closely, and the attitude of the other party made him a little suspicious. "Or, you don't want me to find out who killed my brother? One? Definitely not, you may have misunderstood me. Regarding the situation that night, I don't rule out the possibility that your subordinates will be wrong. I just want to be more sure. After all, my employer also paid a bounty," Wesley explained calmly. "I'm not mistaken, it's this Asian guy. I remember his beard." The Russian Ross boy tried to explain that there was nothing wrong with his eyes. Frank was silent, he didn't know what to say. It can't be said that this guy did it, but he doesn't have a beard at all. Vladimir said coldly, "Then how do you want to prove it?" "I heard that you lost a lot of people that night, and most of them were taken care of by another attacker. It must be that the attacker's strength is not simple." Wesley smiled confidently, and turned to look at Lu Chuang. "But look at this man, his figure doesn't look like he has received professional training. I don't think he has the strength to do this." Hearing that his own strength was questioned, Lu Chuang was not happy at the time. What do you mean, you little four-eyed? You are doubting my strength by saying that. Punisher, tell them quickly, what happened to me that night? Riding a motorcycle, he killed the group of gangsters blocking the road with a pistol. Silent Wesley took a deep breath. Obviously he didn't ask anything, but this guy exploded all by himself. Is this guy short-hearted? Why did you appear here? Frank asked. He knew Lu Chuang's strength, that kind of weird self-healing ability and unpredictable marksmanship. He shouldn't be caught so easily. Lu Chuang said seriously. Can't you tell, I'm here to save you? Looking at Lu Chuang, who was tied up with a rope and had to jump dozens of times while walking, Frank was expressionless. Sorry, I really can't see it. Seeing Lu Chuang's direct description of the situation that night, and the familiar look on Frank's face, Vladimir didn't know that the person in front of him was another attacker, and suddenly rage got up, and he was about to punch Lu Chuang. Chuang's face was smashed. In the next moment, a cold light flashed, and the sharp blade stopped on his neck. Ignoring the gangsters who panicked and raised their guns, Wade held the katana in his hand and said in a dissatisfied tone, "This is against the rules. Before paying the money, he is still my man. You have to get my consent to do it in front of so many people. In front of you, don't you want to pay on credit?" That's it. Lu Chuang hid behind Wade and shouted, as if he had found a backer. Feeling the coldness of his neck, Vladimir's body froze for an instant, and his intuition told him that the person in front of him was definitely not someone to mess with. The threat of death made him forcefully suppress the anger in his heart. Transfer the money. Vladimir ordered a subordinate beside him with a gloomy face. In less than half a minute, Wade's cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Weasel, and the bounty has been transferred through the dark web. However, he looked at the phone screen, and suddenly exclaimed angrily, "This amount is wrong. Why is there only 2.5 million United States dollars, and where did the other 150 United States dollars go?" Noticing that katana was still on his neck, Vladimir looked sullenly at Wesley. Wesley frowned slightly. The development of the matter was completely out of control. "I need to report to my employer." Wade was too lazy to listen to nonsense, waved another katana and pointed it at Wesley, chattering endlessly. "Little Four Eyes, you should learn to be independent, and now is the best opportunity to practice. Transfer the money I should take, definitely. I don't mind if you pay more money for tuition." Quote. I see. After a brief silence, Wesley still transferred the money. As he spoke, his eyes gradually turned cold. It is not so easy to take money from their gangsters. Looking at Vladimir's gloomy face, it is obvious that the other party does not intend to let this man in tights go. Hearing so many things here that should not be heard, how could they will let the other party go? However, the bounty that should have been paid still needs to be paid. After all, it is a bounty issued by their forces. Swallowing the bounty privately will only affect their reputation. No one will be willing to cooperate with them in the future. This is a good boy. Well, now you are his people. The mobile phone sent another money transfer message, and Wade put away katana in satisfaction, let go of the rope and pushed Lu Chuang over. Vladimir frowned. Are we his? Shouldn't it be said that he is one of us? Wesley immediately sensed something was wrong, stepped back a few steps and said in surprise, "Shoot them and kill them." However, Lu Chuang moved faster than them. Two pistols suddenly appeared in the lowered hands, and the suddenly contracted pupils locked everyone in the room. Boom. 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 The sound of the gun was silent, and Lu Chuang assumed a posture of closing the gun. All the gangsters and bodyguards in the house fell to the ground. Blood flowed from the gun on their foreheads, and the other remnants who were waiting outside the door and rushed into the house when they heard the gunshots were also screamed by Wade, and wiped them with a few knives. Neck. In just a few seconds, the gang was instantly wiped out. Only Vladimir and Wesley remained. At the moment, the house was full of corpses, and the smell of blood permeated the small space. In just a few seconds, there was no one alive in the two gangsters except for the two leaders. Under the dim light, the bloodstains on the ground reflected a penetrating scarlet light. Seeing that the people they brought were wiped out immediately, Vladimir and Wesley's complexions suddenly turned pale. When Wade killed several intruders, they didn't know that the two people in front of them were in the same group. It's not that they didn't think about this possibility at first. But when they saw that there were only 2 people on the other side, they relaxed their vigilance. They never thought that only 2 people could kill all of them in such a short period of time. Little guy, you are such a little genius. You have earned 4 million USD, which is much easier than when I ran around the world to make money. Wade pushed Katana back behind his back and looked at the phone happily. He and Lu Chuang split the bounty 50-50, that is to say, he could get 2 million USD in the end. This huge sum of money is enough for him to be cool for a long time. Lu Chuang patted his head suddenly. Sloppy, if I knew it was so easy, I should have caught the Punisher together to claim the bounty, so we can earn at least 15 million United States dollars, what a blood loss. Frank. Silent, I'm not dead yet, is it really okay to say such things in front of me? By the way, untie him first. Lu Chuang seemed to have just remembered the existence of Frank, and was about to untie him, only to find that there was still a lock on the iron chain. Where's the key to the lock? On him. Frank glanced at Wesley. Lu Chuang nodded, came to Wesley and started searching without saying a word. Wesley's face was very ugly. He could see that this Asian was not an ordinary mercenary. The strength shown by the other party just now was definitely beyond the scope of normal people. I think we can talk, if you want to. Don't touch it, the keys are in the left pocket of my suit. If you don't say it, it's over. Lu Chuang took out a key from his pocket, and took out other things inside. Hey, what is this? This is my wallet. Don't talk nonsense, I picked it up. Lu Chuang decisively stuffed the wallet into his trouser pocket. Wesley. Silent at this moment, Vladimir beside him suddenly exploded. Taking advantage of the moment when Lu Chuang was not paying attention, Vladimir raised the revolver he had prepared, and pulled the trigger several times at Wade in front of him, and Wade fell to the ground with a bang. Immediately afterwards, Vladimir pointed his gun at Lu Chuang and roared with a cruel smile, "Damn Asian, you are dead." Facing the black muzzle of the gun, Lu Chuang smiled confidently. I counted it, and your bullets have been exhausted. I bet you have no bullets in your gun. Boom. Lu Chuang smiled at Jiaquan, tilted his head and fell to the ground. Ha 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 ha, you idiot, I still have a bullet in my gun. Looking at the 2 corpses on the ground, Vladimir suddenly had a sense of accomplishment of winning against the wind, and laughed wantonly. This situation was reversed, and Wesley was both surprised and happy. But soon, these emotions all turned into fear. Because he saw that the 2 corpses actually moved. Apart from the terrified Wesley, Frank's expression was not much better. He saw the tight-fitting man who had been shot several times stood up again. Obviously, the other party had the same self-healing ability as Lu Chuang. What the hell, is this kind of ability wholesale? How can everyone come back from the dead? I saw Lu Chuang sat up abruptly, grabbed the gun in Vladimir's hand, pointed the muzzle at his newly healed forehead, and said viciously, I don't believe it, come again. This time I bet there must be no bullets in your gun. Deadman suddenly revived, Vladimir's mind went blank, and he subconsciously pulled the trigger. Click click click. Sure enough, there was no bullet this time, after all, it was the last bullet just now. Lu Chuang smiled triumphantly, then raised his pistol and pointed it at Vladimir's head. It's your turn, guess if there are any bullets in my gun. Vladimir swallowed. Yes, I bet there are bullets. Boom. Looking at Vladimir's body, Lu Chuang said angrily, damn it, you won it again. Ignoring Wesley who was stunned aside, Lu Chuang picked up the key and walked over to unlock the chain for Frank. Looking at Frank with a bruised nose and swollen face like a pig's head, Lu Chuang hesitated for a few seconds, took out his plastic bag mask, and said thoughtfully, take it, you should need this, I'm afraid your face will be recognized by those criminals, they will not be able to help laughing when they see you in the future. After all, Frank is a brutal and iron-blooded tough guy, which is related to his image management, and Lu Chuang is also thinking about the other party. Well, sincerely. Frank looked down at the plastic bag with 2 small holes poked in it and a pork discount sticker on the back. He definitely had reason to suspect that this was a trap, otherwise it would be hard to explain why this guy just happened to show up wearing this ridiculous mask. Frank kept a straight face and didn't take the plastic bag. He would rather wear this pig's face than wear this vile mask. Vladimir is dead. Wesley's plans were completely disrupted. To make matters worse, now he fell into the hands of these three people. Wait. I think we can talk. Wesley couldn't help but said. He felt that he couldn't wait any longer. Otherwise he would be too passive, and he had to control the rhythm of the situation. Lu Chuang's eyes lit up. You want to negotiate? Yes, you are very welcome. I like negotiating. Are you going to pay a few $100 million for your own life? Wesley choked suddenly. Hundreds of millions, do you think I'm Tony Stark? However, Lu Chuang didn't shoot directly at himself. Wesley secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Chuang's move made him at least see the possibility of negotiation. He brewed his emotions, and showed a characteristic smile. Actually, there is no relationship between us. There is no conflict. I am the employer of that commission, and I hired you to disrupt the drug trade of the Russian Ross gang. You hired me. Lu Chuang looked at Wesley. I don't believe it. How do you prove it? Good reincarnation. Lu Chuang needed to prove that he was the attacker just now. Now it is Wesley's turn to prove that he is the client. Wesley said helplessly. The entrustment fee is 100,000, and the place and time of the transaction are provided. Okay. It turned out to be you, and I caught you. Lu Chuang's eyes widened, and he said angrily, a mere 100,000 United States dollars made me offend so many people, and the leader of the Russian Ross gang. Do you know how scared I am all this time? Wesley glanced at Vladimir's still cool body. You killed him because you were afraid? If you are not satisfied with the remuneration, we can renegotiate. How much? Wesley tentatively said. I will pay you 3 times. Who are you looking down on, Punisher? This poor guy with no money will be handed over to you. Lu Chuang curled his lips in disdain. Now that he has 2 million United States dollars, he no longer cares about such a small amount of money. Hearing Lu Chuang's words, Frank, who was covered in blood, picked up a gun on the ground, walked slowly to Wesley, and said in a cold voice like a ghost crawling out of hell, anyone who is guilty will be punished. Have to die. 5 times. 5 times the pay, etc. Lu Chuang suddenly held down the gun in Frank's hand and stopped his next move. If he didn't hold it down, he would definitely shoot directly with Frank's personality. Silent Frank tried to raise the pistol, but found that Lu Chuang used a bit too much force. He looked at Lu Chuang expressionlessly. Are you going to let him go? Don't worry. Discuss things slowly. Lu Chuang looked at Wesley with a smile. 5 times the reward is still a bit low. Let's make 10 times the reward, and make up a whole number. It rose 10 times directly, and Wesley wanted to cry without tears. Is this too much? Punisher, kill him. Frank raised his pistol indifferently. Anyone who is guilty must die. I agree. 10 times the reward, etc. Silent. Frank took a deep breath. He decided not to say any lines next time, just do it directly. Seeing that another 1 million USD came in, Wade almost drooled. Little guy. I know you are the most loyal person, there must be my share in it. Lu Chuang said indifferently. I think you are thinking about farts. This is the unscrupulous boss's embezzlement of the employees' money. It is the remuneration I deserve. What does it have to do with you? Oh. Wade covered his cheeks exaggeratedly, as if he couldn't believe his teammate suddenly said such words. After a few seconds of delay, he pointed at Lu Chuang with trembling fingers. Are you sure you want to take the money all by yourself? It's all mine, it's mine. Damn it, you forced me. Wade roared, then looked at Wesley. Transfer 1 million USD to me, and I will help you get rid of this money-seeking bastard. Wesley blinked in confusion. Is this an internal strife? Frank glanced at Wade, and he didn't let go of the finger holding the trigger. Once Wade made a move, he would immediately shoot and finish the opponent. You're going to betray me for this little money. Lu Chuang looked at Wade in disbelief. It was you who betrayed me first. Wade pulled out 2 katanas, with a very firm attitude, and asked Wesley. Lil 4 Eyes, how are you thinking? You don't have much time. Seeing that Lu Chuang and Wade had a real dispute, Wesley was instantly ecstatic. This result couldn't be better. Only when the 2 sides fight, can I have a chance to escape. So, he nodded without hesitation. Just when Wesley was expecting the 2 to fight, Lu Chuang suddenly pointed the gun at his head and said angrily, okay. You guys are so wicked that you actually want to split our team. Let me tell you, This time without 20 times the remuneration. This matter will be difficult to settle. Wesley was taken aback, and subconsciously looked at Wade, whom he had just hired. I saw that the other party put away katana, put his hands on the back of his head and whistled, as if it had nothing to do with him. At the moment Wesley didn't understand yet. This F***king is not internal strife, it is clearly fishing for law enforcement. Two bloody bastards. Wesley looked aggrieved. The rhythm of controlling the situation has long been thrown to nowhere by him. Wesley found that the two guys in front of him couldn't use the thinking of normal people to judge at all. He was able to talk and laugh when facing all kinds of black forces, but he was at a disadvantage when facing the two. But due to the disparity in strength between the two sides, Wesley couldn't afford to resist. Wesley took a deep breath. Okay, but I need to contact my employer. This extra money is not within my rights, and I can't make the decision. Seeing that Wesley's eyes didn't seem to be fake, Lu Chuang waved his hand. Let's fight, remember not to talk nonsense. Wesley silently took out a mobile phone from his suit and quickly dialed the number. He said a few words into the phone, and only briefly explained the current situation. Under the gaze of the three of them, he didn't pretend to be smart enough to reveal information about Lu Chuang and the others, and he also told the fact that Lu Chuang killed everyone. After getting a reply from the other party, Wesley handed the phone to Lu Chuang. My employer wants to speak to you. Lu Chuang took the phone and greeted warmly. Hello, you must be the famous Jin Bing. Hello, Mr. Mercenary. A steady voice came from the other end of the phone. It's a pity that we will talk in this way. It seems that there seems to be some unnecessary misunderstandings between us, but I think this is a good opportunity for us to a chance to rediscover. Unexpectedly, this underworld boss did not have the imagined image of a tyrant. His tone was slow and calm, appearing unhurried. Therefore, the other party is worthy of being a gangster, and this speech alone is extraordinary. A few words can offset the hostility between the two parties, making this conversation more like a friendly exchange. Although I really want to cooperate with you and say a few words that are compelling, but I'm in a hurry. Lu Chuang didn't intend to continue chatting with Jin Bing, and said bluntly, 20 times the reward. If you give the money, you will let him go. If you don't, you will let him go. Just tear up the ticket. I'll pay you 50 times as much. Jin Bin said calmly. According to the previous procedures, now I can transfer 2 million to your account, and after Wesley arrives at a safe place, I can transfer another 3 million. As long as you let Wes go Lee, you can get a total of 5 million USD, and I will not count the previous bounties. What do you think of this deal? F***K. Jin Bing's sudden throwing of coins made Lu Chuang a little confused. Is this the style of a boss? Hearing that there was no sound from the phone, Jin continued. You helped me get rid of the trouble of Vladimir. I am very grateful to you. This is the reward you deserve. As I said, there are only some differences between us. Misunderstanding, so I want to clear up these misunderstandings. After all, we have not had any actual conflicts. Lu Chuang looked at the corpses of bodyguards all over the floor, nodded and said, indeed. The actual conflict, the meaning of this sentence is a bit ambiguous. Jin Bin secretly wanted to silence Lu Chuang, an insider, and Lu Chuang secretly almost killed Wesley, Jin Bin's right-hand man. However, none of these things have happened now, and there is indeed no real conflict between them. As for the few bodyguards, it is not worth the money at all and put Lu Chuang, a mysterious mercenary, on the opposite side of himself. Compared to this, Jin is more interested in Lu Chuang. Although he does not know what happened for the time being, judging from the results of the two battles the opponent participated in, it is obvious that the mercenary he hired is not simple. Jin Bin said with great interest. Besides, I very much hope to reach a long-term cooperative relationship with someone with ability like you. If you are willing to serve me, I will give you a sufficient reward. During the speech, Jin did not show enough sincerity and politeness. Lu Chuang always felt an inexplicable sense of déjà vu. This gold could not have been traveled by Boss Xiao from the Three Kingdoms, right? Putting away distracting thoughts, Lu Chuang said cheerfully, Old Xiao. Ah no, Boss Jin, I've already felt your sincerity, but I'm not interested in being your younger brother. As for the remuneration you mentioned, I will reluctantly accept it. As Jin Bin said, they just had some misunderstandings, and it would not be the case that the two sides would fight to the death. Since Jin Bin is so sincere and actively wants to eliminate the misunderstanding, Lu Chuang is naturally willing to accept it. Anyway, he's not a superhero, so what does Kim have to do with him? Hearing Lu Chuang's refusal, Jin didn't bother. It's a pleasant cooperation, and I hope there will be opportunities to cooperate in the future. Pleasant cooperation. After finishing speaking, Lu Chuang hung up the phone directly. After a while, he received the transfer notice, and Jin Bing's handling speed was really fast enough. Lu Chuang looked at Wesley. Little Four Eyes, your boss has already paid the ransom, you can leave now. My name is Wesley. Okay, Little Four Eyes, let's go, Little Four Eyes. Silent Wesley didn't dare to refute, and walked towards the iron gate. He didn't want to stay in this place for a second. Looking at Wesley's back, Wade suddenly put forward his own idea. Little guy. Why don't we follow this little four-eyed boy secretly, and when he leaves a certain distance, we put a sack on his back and tie him back, so that we can get back together again. A ransom was extorted. No, I am the most trustworthy person. Lu Chuang refused righteously, and then said in a low voice, check it out first, wait for Jin and type the mantissa to the account, and then we will find a way to tie him back. You are right. Hey! *2 Wesley, who hadn't left yet, twitched the corner of his mouth. He always felt that there were two malicious eyes staring at him from behind. He hurriedly quickened his pace and left the room in embarrassment almost at the speed of running.